Hello and welcome back to another episode of Redefine Parenting. I'm your host, Veenu Keller. I want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and Her Network on Zingo TV's channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire Sticks, Roku, and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So today, my listeners, you are in for a treat because I have a friend that I met a while ago through, probably, I don't know, the same peer group, I guess. We'll call it the same peer group. And, I've been following this amazing woman's story. And what I've realized, and I've asked her, I met with her to come on my show because she's lived through what we're going to talk about today. She's experienced it. She's still experiencing it. And I believe that her and I both believe that if we can get parents, if we can get kids to really understand themselves and understand their kids better, that maybe we could stop what's coming up in the future, like really just put an end to it. So I want to welcome my friend, Sara Weiss, to the show. Sara, welcome to Redefine Parenting.
Hey, Veenu. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Sara, you've written a book, Not Born This Way. And, and I know that you're more than just your story because I have chills just when I said that, like just getting to know you over the conversations that we've had. You're an amazing woman, your strength, a single mama, raising your daughters, pickleball champion. Like every time I pick up a pickleball racket, I think of you. And I actually was bragging about you not too long ago at an event I was at. I was having a pickleball conversation, this little sidebar, with a friend of mine, Brian Bradley, and I was telling him all about you and how amazing you are and stuff. But back to our story. So, I know that especially lately, just because I've been watching and hearing your story, and I'm a supporter of you, of what you've been going through. You know, there's so much discrimination about people that have transitioned into a different gender, and I had a doctor on here, Dr. Sana, um, months ago, and she is a doctor in Pakistan who's actually helping young adults transition. And she says that the genitalia may be between the legs, but the sex is in the mind. And you and I had this conversation. It was a brilliant conversation. That's why I wanted to bring you to the show, because I think that we need to start talking about this and helping people realize that, you're a woman now. You're a woman now.
I always was. That's
Yes.
that's the thing. And what you were saying, like sex is the genitalia, gender is the mind, the soul, the heart. This is not something that kind of just happened out of nowhere. This was all my life, that to a point where my mother and my grandmother always knew I would come out one day. So there was nothing I could do to avoid it, nothing I could do to change who I was. In fact, I spent many years trying to change who I was to be what society wanted me to be. And it wasn't happening, no matter how hard I tried. I am this way. This is who I am. I was born this way.
I love it. And thank you for correcting me. You're right. The sex is between the legs, the gender's in the mind. Thank you. It was her quote, so I'm not taking credit for that at all because I already butchered that up. But thank you for correcting me, and you're right. So let's go back. Let's go back to the reason why you wrote your book. I believe your book was a bestseller,
Yeah.
and international bestseller and stuff. So let's start with that. Let's start with that of what what inspired you to write that book?
I am not the only one who has climbed mountains in my life. As you know, we all do. I think this is why I have a lot of grace and patience with a lot of people who are hating on me and, saying a lot of discriminative things. It's like, you see these comments, it's like, you're dealing with some stuff too, aren't you? Happy people don't write this stuff.
Right.
So in overcoming a lot of mountains and discrimination and people turning their backs on me, stabbing me in the back, all the stuff that we all love to go through as human beings on this lovely planet, I I feel like my purpose in life has always been to remind people that they're stronger than they're giving themselves credit for, that they're walking miracles, that we all have the power to overcome and to come on the other side of whatever prison we've put ourselves in, or discrimination, or limitation, or disadvantage that we are given by society, that we can come on the other side of it stronger and more powerful than ever. I am just a conduit for the reminder of that to people. So in writing this book, my vision was to help people realize that when they look in the mirror and they see this person looking back at them, most of us tend to go, well, that's me right there. I am maybe a failure. I am ugly. Maybe I'm beautiful. But we define ourselves based off of what's happened in our past leading up to the person who's looking back at us in the mirror.
Right.
It really got me out of where I was, and where I was at that point on welfare, living in a townhome just above ghetto. It was pretty much ghetto. It was bedbug infested, a single mom of two, living in victim mentality, blaming the whole world and everyone who turned their back on me on why my life wasn't amazing. So I'd look in the mirror and I'd just belittle myself like, "You are a failure. You're terrible. Like, how did you do this? What is wrong with you? Why can't you smarten up? Why can't you? Why can't you? Why are you?" And I was like, "I'm sick of this. Like, there's got to be a better way for me to live. I want to be a better role model for my children. I want to show them that it doesn't matter what scenario you were born in, whatever your childhood was, whatever limitations the world has put on you, that you can turn it around and create a good life." And there's many stories out there of people who have, including people like Tony Robbins. So I'm like, how am I going to do this? And I started to think, who really am I? Am I this person looking back at me, or am I much greater and bigger than I'm even giving myself credit for? So I started to envision, what would the best version of me be? And I started to see this version of me who was well dressed, had great posture, who spoke well, who was well spoken, and had this confidence and this aura and this power and this just essence about her. And I saw this version of her, who you're meeting today, while I was in this victim mentality. And I opened my eyes. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's who I am, not the person looking back at me. I need to tell people that you can do this too. And it wasn't until I actually experienced becoming her that I was like, I need to show people that this works. That when you are down in the dumps and you're feeling the weight of the world and all these limitations and disadvantages that we believe define us, that we can actually redefine ourselves into something totally different, something totally evolved and more grounded and healthy and in tune, better. I'm such a better mother now. At that point, I was such a victim, and it was hard to be a mom to my kids because I was stuck in my little trash can world. And now, when I saw myself as a new, reborn version of myself, I saw an incredible mother, someone who was giving my kids someone to look up to, someone to know that they're well taken care of, and that as they grow up, they're going to have some strong support behind them. And as I saw that vision for myself, and I looked in the mirror and said, that's who you're becoming, that's who you are. And I stepped into that. That is who I became. I am now so proud of myself as a mother. Whenever my kids have something that they're dealing with, we sit down, and when I speak to them, I feel so good about showing them what I've overcome and saying, "Hey, whatever you're going through, I'm with you on this. It's going to be difficult. It's going to get bumpy. I know that because my life gets bumpy, and you've been there with me for it, and you've seen that when it gets bumpy, we overcome, and we overcome as a family." So that was the inspiration of my book, to be able to take that past life definition and to redefine myself into something totally more evolved. And I had to share it with the world. I wanted to remind people that, yeah, you are way more powerful than you're giving yourself credit for.
But I think your book has more than just the whole transitioning to the gender that you knew you were,
Mhm.
because I think all of us were not born this way. I think all of us, whether it has nothing to do with our body. It's the
No.
mindset. I am definitely not the same person that was born 50 years ago. I wasn't the person I grew up to be, 48 years ago, and then 45 years ago, and then 30 years ago. Like every year that we age and we get wiser and our mindset change, we're still not the same person that we were born. And, just in respect of what you're saying, I think that, you know, I look at my life and people say, Veenu, you're so determined and you have so much confidence and you have so much courage. And I'm so glad that I get to put that out there to the world. And yet I look at my mom who sacrificed everything, took a chance to divorce my dad in a foreign country and raise two kids by herself, work two jobs, go to law school all by herself. And I look and I say, yeah, I'm a reflection of what I thought life was, that you had to be determined like she was. You had to have the courage to step out and go against the grain like she did. And you had to have the confidence to keep going. And your daughters are going to see that in you. You know, they're going to see that and they're going to just think that that is the way life is because that's how mom was. But here's the other thing that you said, and I just want to touch on this, is that it's almost like you were living in imposter syndrome before you stepped into who you are. Because I've only known you as this powerhouse, Sara, who is like, when I saw what you were going through a few months ago, I was just like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that she is stuck here. This is not Sara. And you know what it taught me is that even the strongest people who inspire the world can go through those moments. And I love how vulnerable you are about it because you're not afraid, like, oh gosh, are they going to think that I'm not the same Sara if I show that, hey, I'm hurting right now? Like, this does not feel good to me to be attacked at a sport that I absolutely love, that I'm sponsored by, that I'm getting ready to step in, and now all of a sudden I'm being attacked. It just made me honor you more. Like it really did, to see that you were so vulnerable to say, hey, look, I'm going to show you the good, the bad, the ugly. You get to
Mhm.
choose if you want to stay in my court or not.
Yeah, no, and when I got back from the US Open where I was publicly outed on Twitter and would, cause some pain, it was such a massive shock to my system because I didn't expect it. I spoke to my kids about it. When I came back, I said, "Okay, so I'm going through some stuff right now. You might see me get a little emotional." And I was very open about it. I said, "There's some bullying happening online towards me based off of my past." And they're like, "Why? Because you were born a boy?" So they have a level of comprehension about it. And I said, yes, exactly. So I just want you to know that. And if you see me getting emotional, that's why. And you can give me all the hugs and kisses and we can do this together. And yes, life is not perfect. I don't care how powerful I come off sometimes. Yeah, I hurt too.
Yep.
We all have our moments. And the world needs to know that it's not all sunshine and rainbows like it looks like on Facebook sometimes.
Right. Right. So let's go back. So, you said that this, I'm going to call it an epidemic at this point because it's really taking over, right? A lot. And you said that, we were talking before the show and I was just in awe with some of the stuff you were telling me, that even, cis women or girls, meaning that there's I'm going to speak the language that I know back from the 80s, that we're straight, right? We're straight girls. Like we like boys, heterosexual, I guess. I mean, I don't even know what the political words are, but that's what, just so people understand what a cis girl is. And you were saying that, just tell the story because I mean, it's your story to tell.
Sure, sure. For those who don't know, what cis means is just that you identify with the gender, the biological gender you were born. So a cis girl was born a biological girl and identifies as a girl. So, as I'm going through all this kind of viral infamy, I'm kind of infamous. I'm being sent all kinds of clips and articles and videos and reels and all this stuff from all my friends who are just trying to keep me up to date. Because if I'm being honest, I never really hung out and spent time getting to know the whole LGBT community because I didn't really identify with it. I'm just me. I'm a woman and I'm Sara. But I'm seeing all this stuff and what's going on and towards the youth and towards people who are, gender diverse, we'll say, because it's not just transgender and there's all kinds of
Right.
things in between on the spectrum. But one thing that's happening is I've got a lot of people, and not to be sexist or anything, but mainly men coming at me with these derogatory comments and saying things along the lines to justify their hate, like, I'm doing this and I'm saying this to you to protect women, to protect my wife, and to protect my daughter. I don't want my daughter to experience people like you. I don't want my wife have to lose an opportunity because someone like you. And my response to that is, you're actually putting women in danger. And this is what's happening across North America. One story that I recently saw was a 9-year-old girl was at a track meeting. Again, 9-year-old girl who was accosted by an older man because he thought she looked like a boy. So he accosted her saying, "You should be playing with the boys. You don't belong with the girls," and all kinds of other really mean things that caused this girl to go home in tears from a track meet. A cisgender girl, born a girl, who just had a pixie cut and, to his standards, looked like a boy.
Mm,
She didn't know she looked like a boy, but apparently by his standards, she did. She went home crying. Another scenario, again, these are just some recent videos, only a couple of the hundreds I have seen. So
right.
I really want people to understand this, that you're not protecting women. You are putting them in danger. One lady in the lineup for a washroom, who is a lesbian woman, but a cisgender woman who was born a woman and identifies as a woman, but has a more masculine look, was accosted by someone who then brought the police involved before she even got to go to the washroom. And the police wanted her ID before they let her in the women's washroom. Guess where this was? Florida. To a point where they wanted to arrest her because she wouldn't show her ID. She didn't have it on her. Why would she? She was going to the washroom. But the police were forcing and pushing on her to do it. So this is what you're causing if you justify this fuel. It's the fuel that these people, not just men, but also women, but a lot of men who are saying, we're just protecting women. We're protecting them from you. No, you're putting them in danger.
Right, right. And thank you for correcting me because again, I don't know the correct terminology
Okay.
and we'll have listeners on here, so please don't hold it against me, but that's why I have people like Sara who do know and correct me in understanding the proper terminology. So thank you for that. And again, we're not doing any justice by it's almost like a witch hunt at this point, you know.
It's
And
scary.
it is, it is. And I have clients that, you know, um are gay and they don't want to tell their parents because they don't they their parents make comments and stuff already, and so we don't even realize as parents when we're making comments about things the way our kids are interpreting that and what they're not going to tell us because one of the things that I talk to my clients about is creating an open, safe, and trusting space, kind of like what you do with your girls, right? Like your girls realize you're teaching your girls right now, mommy's going through this. If you see emotions, come give me hugs and kisses and we're going to go through it together. So when they go through stuff later in life, they're going to come to you and say, Mom, I'm going through stuff. If you see me hurting, just come give me hugs and kisses and we're going to go through this together. Like you're already setting that up. You're creating that open, safe, and trusting space for your kids. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And now, how are we doing that when we're making, different sexual connotations or even about colors? Like, I mean, I have a client and she says that her sibling constantly makes sexual innuendos about gay people, like very rude and racist stuff. And it pains her. Like she does not feel safe around him. Now, mind you, she doesn't identify anyway right now. And, but just to hear that, even the racist stuff makes her feel unsafe around him. Again, kids are impressionable. It doesn't even have to be the parents, it could be siblings. That if it's not being corrected, to educate them in a proper way. Like, what is funny about making fun of someone's sexuality? What is funny about making fun of someone's color? I mean, because last time I knew, jokes were to make you laugh, jokes weren't there to hurt people. And so, you know, so I deal with this with my clients. I deal with what they have to hear in society, what they have to feel like. And I'm grateful that I'm there, that they can vent to me and have someone with compassion and empathy to say, I get it. I hear you. I understand, and help build their self worth and self esteem up regardless of how they feel their parents or anybody else is going to see them. They have to feel good about them. So, with that said, let's go back to when before Sara was born, when you were a boy. You were born a boy, so Sara was not here yet. Or I don't know, maybe Sara was born inside of you as well, and there's always a Sara in you. Like, so can you help us and the listeners that are curious, what does that look like?
It's magical, honestly. I my name was always Sarah, which is it's interesting. Even as a young child, if I was, say, on the bus and I heard someone go, "Sarah," I would look as if it was my name. I can't explain that. I don't know why. I
That's feeling.
just know that it's always been my name. So, growing up, I knew I was kind of a mature kid. My mom and my grandma used to call me gentle soul. I was very sensitive and effeminate, and I played Barbies, and I was a little girl, and I knew that I was different. And as soon as I started to have these thoughts where it's like, I wish I could wear a dress, I knew society didn't agree with that. Even as a young child, 5, 6, 7 years old, those whole, childhood growing up years, I knew that the way I was thinking and the thoughts that I had popping into my head that I didn't ask for, that no one was telling me to have, no one was hypnotizing me or brainwashing me to have, they were just there. I knew they were wrong. They were wrong by society's standards. So anything I did, I kept to myself. I would go into my sister's bedroom and I would steal her clothes and I would go hide and I would put them on. And I felt good. I felt pretty. I was like, oh, this is right. And, as I grew up, the longer I went into, say, puberty, the more I was like, oh my God, am I crazy? Especially at around 11, 12, 13, like puberty time. Whew, my thoughts started to become more of getting pregnant, as like I'm imagining getting pregnant. And I know that's not going to happen. I imagined having a period. I imagined having sex with men. All these thoughts, but not as a man. In my vision, I was a woman having sex with men. And it scared the crap out of me. It scared me big time. And that's what made me go, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to really work hard at pretending to be a guy. I literally had to do research because, I was like watching the boys around me kind of grow up and they're these macho. Like my mom was dating a biker macho guy and his son was like, following, like apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And these are, who I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, I got to be like them. And they walk differently than me. They talk differently than me. Like I had to do research and I watched all the boys around me. It's like, okay, I got to walk like him and I got to talk like him and I got to pretend I'm like this. And all of a sudden I created this character and this persona that I had to constantly be working on being. Every social scenario that I was in, I had to calculate every thought and every word and every action that I did. I could never just be. I was so jealous and envious of people who could just be and exist effortlessly and just speak their mind because I couldn't do that. If I did that, I would have given it away. I would have shown Sarah. So I put her in a prison and that's exactly how it felt. It felt like I was in this prison behind my eyes, allowing this costume to live out my life. And I did everything I could to pretend to be this guy that I portrayed. And I created a landscaping company where I cut brick and I did this, heavy lifting and all this like macho stuff. And I'd be holding this huge brick saw and I'd be cutting brick, thinking about, if this was my real life, I would not be cutting brick. I would be, my bedroom would have purple and all these colors and these beautiful things hanging and decorations. And I'm thinking about like if my girl life, my real life would look very different than this. And I was thinking about that every day. And it scared the crap out of me. Like, I was wondering, what is wrong with me every day? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why am I thinking this way? God, can I just wake up normal one day, please? Please? Could you please do me a huge favor up there and just let me wake up normal so I don't have to pretend anymore? And it never happened. I never woke up normal until I became myself. Now I feel normal. I actually feel normal. I didn't feel normal when I was society's version of normal, when I was a kid, when I was hiding who I truly was. I am more mentally grounded, emotionally stable than I ever have been. As a boy, I was not all there. People didn't know the real me, so I couldn't have real close friendships. A lot of people knew me and had respect for me, but I never had close connections with people because who was I going to let in? Nobody.
It's definitely imposter syndrome. Like
Yeah.
for real. That's for real imposter syndrome right there.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretending to be something that you're not just so you can fit in and portray yourself for what everybody else wants you to be.
Exactly. I
So,
was
and then
wearing a costume.
you actually got married,
Mhm.
right? You ended up getting married. Was that all part of the act?
Yeah. So yes, 100%. But I have true love for people. So I loved my wife at the time. But when we had, when we were in sexual relations, I was not thinking about her. And I felt bad about it. But again, I had this human need to fit in and to belong and to feel like I am normal. So I continued to live that lie for years. And luckily, I got some beautiful children out of it that are my biological children. And if you see my oldest, especially, but both of them, they're my mini me's. They look exactly like me. And it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. So I have no regrets. Some people ask me, what would you do if you went back in time? Would you tell yourself to transition earlier? No, no. I love who I am. I love my life. Would my life be very different? If I were able to go through female puberty as a kid, as a younger adult,
It was
even.
much. I'm going to tell you that.
Oh no, I went through it as an adult and it was not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did. So in hormone replacement
Yep.
therapy, and I went through the surgeries and everything, right? So switching over to estrogen from testosterone, I'll tell you, it's a very different game. And I went through all the stuff, growing breasts and it being sore and the itchiness and the mood swings. Oh my God. Oh my God. I had to learn too that just because I'm crying doesn't mean I'm depressed. That was a new thing.
No,
Like,
I mean, and you know this because as a woman, we kind of cry at everything. I cry when I'm frustrated. I cry when I'm sad. I cry when people graduate high school. I cry at weddings. I cry at everything. Like crying is like my go-to emotion. Um,
mhm.
and it has so many different meanings. So people like my, and it's so funny that kids, Mom, you're crying. Are you okay? And I'm like, oh, I'm just so happy. And they're like, but you're crying. I'm like, these are happy tears, you know? Or like when I'm really, really angry and I just need to cry it out. And they're like, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm not sad right now. I'm really, these are angry tears. These are these are definitely angry tears, And then there's times that I'm really, really sad. And these are sad tears. These are really sad tears. So, you definitely can't judge an emotion from a teardrop. You just can't do it. But what I love now is like the conversation that you and I had months and months ago when I got on a call with you, because number one, I wanted to get to know you more because I've been following you on Facebook and we have a lot of similar friends and stuff in common being in the same peer group. And, but the conversation, I said, do you want to talk about being transgender? And you're like, I mean, but I'm not. And I'm like, what? And you're like, a transgender is someone who's transitioning into that gender. I'm a woman. And I'm like, you blew my mind. And because I love to be educated. I have no problem you saying, well, let me really tell you what a cis girl is because you were wrong. Let me really tell you where, the sex really is and the gender really is. Like, I have no problem saying, hey, I am wrong. Teach me, teach my listeners so we can learn the proper way of honoring people the way they are and who they are.
That is so powerful. It is so powerful. And I look for people to have that mentality in what I'm going through right now. A good friend of mine told me there are informed people, there's informable people, and there's uninformable people. You are someone who is informable. You want to be informed. If people come at me and have these things they say, but they're not open to taking in new information and expanding their perspective to see things beyond what their current belief system is, there's nothing I can do. And I'm not going to bother trying. They want me to argue with them, which is really weird. It's so funny, but there's nothing they're going to do to open it up. So I just want to thank you for being that kind of role model who can show people it's okay to not know everything and to be open to saying, I didn't see it that way. Let me expand my perspective a little bit and see it a little differently. It's amazing. And I thank you for that in a big way.
Oh, absolutely. So growing up, knowing that Sarah was there and she was trapped and you were in a prison, right? Like you sheltered who you were for the benefit of other people. Because
Yeah,
here's my perspective is my hallucination is that you were searching for normalcy and you were hoping that someday normal would be being what you were born in. It just wasn't that.
correct.
So you shoved what you really was feeling down because that could be normal. Because if it was normal, you would have been born that way. How was your mom supporting? Because your mom was a single mom, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, did you feel you had the support of your mom all along? Like, if you would have, could you have told her at 13 that, Mom, I'm Sarah and I really need your help so I can become Sarah and stop hiding Sarah away. Could you have said that?
Could have. I could have. My mom and my grandma were the only people who truly knew me. They knew me as a child and would constantly come up to me and say, "Hey, when you're ready to come out, we got your back and we'll support you." And, this is right up into the day, where my grandma passed away. She never got to see that she was right all along. I was this fake, macho, tough guy. And they would still come up to me a few times a year, just pull me aside like, "Hey, if you ever come out, you're going to be safe with us." And I'd be like, "Stop it with that. Stop it. Give it up. Give it a rest."
But you're
And
not
they
gay.
were,
And that's so funny. Like there's nothing to
no,
come out. There was nothing to come out because you're not gay. Like,
no,
so my interpretation of come out is go ahead and say that you're gay. Go ahead and say that you like boys, or if you're a girl, you like
yeah,
girls, or you're bisexual. So it's kind of ironic when I'm hearing you say this because you're right. Like there's nothing to come out except for, oh, by the way, when I got made in utero, something got attached that shouldn't have been here. Like, I got an extra part that I didn't really ask for.
yeah. Take it back, please.
Right.
Oh
Can
my
you stop
God.
doing
And
that?
it's crazy. Like, biology is much more complex than all these people are giving it. Biology 101, XY chromosomes. Oh gosh, it is much more advanced than that, and you see these biologists who are coming out and saying, "Hey guys, check your science. Here's what's up. It's much more than XY. It is a spectrum. It is not a binary boy girl because of genitalia, sex, and whatnot. There's so much more to it. So much more to it. They have science backing up why someone like me could exist. There's an actual reason, a scientific reason. This is not some fluke where God made a mistake." Like,
No.
there's a lot of science coming out now understanding why would I be a woman in a male body.
Right. And for my listeners, if you're more curious about this, a few months ago, probably in December, I think it was, or November of last year, I had Dr. Sana on here who really went into detail explaining the biological of how you can have an XXY chromosome. And that's why you can be born with male genitalia, but yet everything else is female about you. Like everything, your feelings, everything. And so if you want more information, please check out that episode because Dr. Asana, this is her mission, is to help people understand the biological reason for people that want to transition and stuff. Um, so for parents out there, how could we help them? Like if they have a child that says, I want to wear a dress, or a girl that's like, I don't want to wear dresses anymore. Stop putting me in skirts. Like I want to go shop in the boys section. How do parents, because I'm going to be honest, there's a stigma that if we allow our kids to be that, then as parents, we were bad parents. Like we should have stopped them. We should have influenced them in a different way. Um, And I don't believe that. I think that there's also a thing called free will. And, you know, I have a friend who their son, he's born a son, even at like a young toddler stage, he wanted to wear skirts. He wanted to wear bows in his hair. He wanted the pink rainbow sandals. He didn't want anything to do with boys. And how does a toddler know that? It's not like we had YouTube and all that stuff yet out there. Or maybe we did, but it wasn't like he was influenced by it. He wasn't at school influenced by it. His dad is like, you know, all man. His mom's all girl. Like, so there's no influence. And I even asked my friend, I said, how did you do it? He's like, Veenu, it wasn't easy. I'm looking at my son and we have dreams of our son and what he's going to be. And he's like this. He's like, but then I realized this is his life. And now his son has, you know, is identified. I was trying to look for the word. Identifies as a girl. Started middle school as a girl. I believe she's going into high school now. And it's a beautiful thing because they don't have the psychological problems with her because they allowed her to have that space to feel what she feels. They would take her in public. They didn't care if they got looks. They didn't care because they were supporting their child.
Yeah, in the end, this is the same dilemma as, say, a family that has a family business and expects that their son or daughter is going to follow the family business. But hey, they would prefer to be an artist. And it's like, well, we have an incredible family business and we're making great money. Why would you want to do something else? You don't have to understand it. Just like you don't have to understand me. At the beginning, it's like we want to give parents more understanding. You don't need to understand. Because I'll tell you, I don't understand it. I don't know why I am the way I am. I have no idea. I'm not a scientist. I'm not in the medical field. All I know is I know who I am. You're seeing her. I cannot sit and explain in detail in a way that somebody is going to go, I get it. It just is, until there's like a book and a manual on here's why humans are the way they are, you're not going to understand it. So when someone tells you something, it's not about, well, now you have to understand it. It's about, do you love, accept, and and have zero conditions on who your son or your daughter is and are? If you love unconditionally, then it has nothing to do with understanding it. It's about support and love. So you don't have to figure it out. You don't have to solve the puzzle. You don't have to solve the riddle. Just love your kid. It's very simple. I recommend to any parent to just remind your child, hey, no matter what, we'll do this together. I got you. I don't need to understand it. I got you. You're beautiful. You're incredible. You're handsome. And whatever you need, I got you. Just let me know so I know. Because, being able to learn as you go, because this is different, right? For me, I came out at 26 years old. I'm like, okay, here we go. This is going to be different. I'm switching hormones. I am like learning how to socially transition into, a world where I never really existed, only in my mind. Now it's becoming a reality. What I say and do and how I feel, it's kind of going to be a learning experience. So, I had to go through a phase where I was selfish and I had to focus only on me and not be as selfless like I usually was. My parents had my mom had a hard time dealing with that. She's like, you're selfish now. It's like, I have to be right now. I really do. So going through this scenario where it's not going to be the same, change is scary. The unknown is scary. Be open to just supporting through that. It could be difficult for a year or 5. But what you really can do as a parent, if you really, really love your son or daughter, your child, is to just be there, is to just, what do you need? I got you. Whatever you, and expect that it might get weird. It might get, to a point where it's like, I don't know what to do right now. That's fine. You don't have to always know what to do. You don't have to be the perfect parent. Just love your kid. Don't worry about understanding. Don't worry about trying to solve the puzzle. Just be there.
I think that's being the perfect parent, if that's even a option, is when you just love your child. That's what they need, and love looks differently to everyone, and I get that. And it's asking your child, how can I love you? How do you need to receive it? What do you need from me? And I love that you said, I don't have to understand it. We can go through it together. I love that. I love that phase that, you may not understand what's going on. I may not understand what's going on in your world, but we're going to try to figure this out together. And I'm going to support you, and it's letting your kids know that regardless of who they are or who they want to be, that you're still going to be there to love them. And that,
Unconditionally.
yeah, and that's what unconditional love is. There's no conditions, there's no rules to loving you. You are my child and I love you. And I will keep you safe as much as, in my power to keep you safe. I say that now because when I was growing up, we could go to school and my mom knew I was safe at school. We can't say that now. So in my power, I do what I can to keep my kids safe. So what about, where can parents get educated if they want to support their kids, but because they have a belief system? I'm not going to wrong parents who have a belief system. It's how do we help them be, what was the word you said? Informable, like allow,
Informable, yeah.
yeah, like allowing them to say, okay, this is my belief system. This is what I do believe. There's no way in heck my kid's doing this while their kid's doing it. And now they got to educate themselves so they can, at, you don't have to like it, but support it. You
Well,
support your,
yeah, and simply, like I'm saying, you don't need to understand it. But if, someone wants to have some kind of better understanding, there are tons of resources. I mean, if you're on social media, there's groups, there's following. Just type it up in YouTube and Google. Look up your local services, counseling services. You can find support groups. You can find counselors who can help give you some guidance on how to be a supportive parent and how to let go of that discomfort, because I understand, like, change is scary, like I said. So my parents or my mom had to go through a transition with me.
oh, I love that you said that. And so let's just, hopefully that will land with people that your mom had to go through the transition with you.
She transitioned herself. She transitioned from having a son to a daughter. And how do you treat this son that you birthed and always thought was a boy until 26 years later? That's a
Right.
whole rewiring of the way she thinks and perceives the world and her reality. I broke her reality to rebuild it up into something even more beautiful and expansive. So you got to know, as a parent, when your child comes out, you're going to go through the transition too, you personally. So she had to do her research and do what it was that would help her feel like she had a grasp on the situation. Because again, when change happens, you feel out of control, and we have a hard time with losing control. Right? That's where our stress comes in. We're not in control. Oh my God, my son is actually a girl, or believes he or she or they is a girl. Oh my God, belief system rattled. So you're going to have to go through some growing pains in this, just like my mom did, just like every mother who has a son or daughter who's identifying as a different gender, or just gay, lesbian, bi. I mean, again, there's like a huge spectrum and alphabet to describe all the different
Absolutely.
expressions, identities, and sexualities. There's so much to it. So yeah, as a parent, there's tons of resources, but really at the base of it all is, do you actually love your child? If you do, then that's all you need to do. Just
Right.
love your child.
So when you uh, announce that you're Sarah now, and you're Sarah, were you already divorced? Had you already left your relationship?
It's quite the story. It's quite the story. And, these are the stories that really enforce my belief in God or something greater beyond us. My version of God might not match religions or whatever, but my wife at the time, who had just had our second child, was then turning to drinking and went to rehab. And as I was getting stressed out about it, I started to dress up more and go into my happy Sarah place to, de-stress. And I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. I have to actually finally explore what the heck is going on, because it's not going away. So I did what I just shared. I looked up resources. I Googled, services in Ottawa that could maybe support groups, maybe counselors. And I found a support group and I found a counselor. I remember the first time I went to a support group, I was scared. And I'm a very confident, bubbly, outgoing person, but I sat in this circle of other people who identified as different genders and different sexualities and expressions, and I hugged my knees in fear and nervous. I was so nervous. But I finally was around people where I could actually share my story, and it became real. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is happening. I'm telling people what's going on, and Sarah's peeking out. Oh my God, you should get back in the cage. Bad things are gonna happen.
Not out play yet.
Oh my God. So I started doing that. And, she's in rehab for like a month. And I came to a conclusion that I was going to tell her. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't plan on transitioning or anything like that. I just said I was going to tell her, "Hey, here's my story. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but here's how I feel. I don't know what this will look like for our family, but hey." So that was my plan. When does anything ever go to plan, though? My ex-wife comes home and she's cold and distant. I'm like, okay, she just went to rehab and she's a little off. And I think 2 weeks back or 3 weeks back. I didn't tell her yet because I was waiting to get close. And she told me she had to go back to, I think it was Toronto or something far away for an alumni meeting to see the people that she graduated from rehab with. And I was like, okay. She left and I checked the computer history to find out that she was looking up dinner date Groupons for two. I was like, that makes sense. So she came back and I called her out on it. And, I had a big cry and realized that this was happening for a reason. The exact time that I was finally exploring being me, my wife was cheating on me. And it was time that we parted ways. And it was a no-brainer for me. It was like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. You want me to be normal now. You finally are giving me a chance to be normal.
And then how long after that did you actually transition?
It was a long process because I had to go through different therapists, psychotherapy, all the
Because
rules and regulations.
you started at that point to go through the whole process.
Yeah.
So how old were your daughters? So like you said your mom had a transition with you, and I know we're running out of time, but real quick, you said that your mom was transitioning with you. Do you feel like your daughters did too? Did they like, is there
So
pictures of you being a dad with them and then now it's mom? And I know how open you are. So how did you support that?
yeah, I mean, my youngest was only 2 months old. My oldest was a year and a bit, year and a half. So she was just starting to call me Dada. And I had to start adjusting that. And I mean, it didn't take long. I think 6 months later, she was used to calling me mama. And that's about it. Kids are easy. I mean, people think we're able to so easily manipulate and indoctrinate them and we're ruining their lives. I mean, they get it. When I say, if I were to ask my kids to hop on here, I'd say, what did mama used to be? They'd be like, a boy. Anything else?
Right.
It's like, it's so simple and basic for them.
We make it dramatic. We make it an issue. We make it a problem. And it's really not. It's like, okay, I had a dad. Now I have two moms. This is great. Life is great. So do you celebrate? Like, do you have like a day that's like when Sarah was literally born, like the transition of you get to be Sarah. You are Sarah now. Do you have a day that you celebrate that? Like a
There is a day, but I celebrate that every day.
I love it.
Every day. May
Every
30th.
day.
It just passed, but I don't have a big party or anything. I literally wake up in gratitude that I am living the life that for 26 years I cried inside and I hurt and almost died just to experience. So every morning I wake up in gratitude and celebration of me.
So, Sarah, we have over 1.45 million viewers a week of my show, and they're going to be hearing this. So, what do you want to tell the world? What do you want to tell the world? What does the world need to hear from Sara Weiss?
My moment to share a message is face your fears. Face your fears. So many people are so afraid to live. We've got this one beautiful opportunity. It's a miracle that we even exist. We won the greatest lottery of all to just exist. Don't waste it. Get out there. Go learn new things. Read a book. Go to new places. Get to know someone who you might not understand. Have a conversation. Get on a show, meet with incredible people like Veenu. Just get out there and show up. The biggest thing I could tell you is to show up. Stop saying no to life. Say yes.
Oh, I love it. And where could they get your book if they wanted to find out more about your journey and again, the message that you're so compelled to tell the world beyond the physical transformation? Where could they get your book?
Amazon. Yeah, Amazon.com or .ca. It's called Not Born This Way. The not is in parentheses because I was born this way, but I was not born this way. And it's the same for all of you. All of you were born this way, but you were not born this way. And you've got so much greatness and incredible magic within you. And when you realize what you're capable of, you can change the world around you. It's incredible.
Amen, sister. I'm going to tell you, like every time we have a conversation, I just feel closer and closer to you. I just think that you're an amazing human being. What you're doing in this world, what you stand for in this world, God knew what he was doing when he chose you. He really did.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all for joining us in our conversation tonight with the incredible Sara Weiss. If you are finding value in this show, please join my Facebook group, Redefine Parenting. Also, there's a free download to teach your children that they're enough, because right now we need to give that to our kids more than anything. We need to give them back their self-worth, their self-esteem. You can go to my website at veenuinspires.com /ebook to get a free download of that book today. Thank you for joining in the conversation. This show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.